one of the more frustrating things about that whole thing is not only did he miss weight, but the UFC then offered both us and Askarov and his camp the opportunity to rebook the fight November 5th, and they declined it. And so it's like, man, wow, how is it even fair or possible that when you miss weight, you dictated now that the fight's not happening, you missed it so bad, and you've messed up your cut so bad that you got to the hospital, and then in addition, you're going to say no to another opportunity.
What's up, guys? It's Jack here, and today I have a special guest with me, the coach of Factory X Muay Thai, MMA, and Boxing, head coach, owner. Please welcome Marc Montoya to the show. Marc, how you doing?
I'm great, man. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, obviously last week you had two fighters that were supposed to fight. We're gonna get into that, but unfortunately one was able to make the walk. Let's start with Jonathan Martinez. He had a fight against Cub Swanson, supposed to be his debut. Cub Swanson's debut to bantamweight. What did you think about? What did you think going into the fight? About Cub cutting down to 135.
I don't know. I had mixed feelings. I mean, I've been around the sport a long time, and Cub's been around the sport a long time. I think he's had a lot of success at 145, so I was a little bit miffed. Like, why would he want to go to 135? But I also kind of get it. If maybe he's walking around lighter as he's gotten older. Maybe his training's changed, and he just felt like that weight class he could continue to dominate in, and that was the justification. Maybe his training and diets changed. So, like I said, I don't know 100%. I think it'd be interesting to hear from his own mouth why he continued to do that. I think he's been very successful at 45, and he's obviously has power there, and so to come down, he's got good length and power. So there's some things that make sense. As you get older, though, the weight cuts can be harder, and that can tax you a little bit. So that I think there's goods and bads there potentially, and he's been around long enough that he weighed all those out. So I think what happened is he felt like the juice was worth the squeeze, and he did it. I mean, I think he can be successful at 135 for sure, and just because the fight ended the way it ended Saturday doesn't mean that he can't still go out there and be successful at 35.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, a lot of people took that as like you said, like it is risky for him. He's been a 145er all of his career. What was it like for the training camp of Jonathan? Like what were some of the things that you guys planned for Cub, and what were you guys anticipating, and how did the training camp overall go?
Well, the training camp went great. I mean, Jonathan works really hard. He stays in pretty good shape. He sacrifices a lot to get a training camp like he just had, and he also, he's away from his family. I mean, he's one of the few fighters that I have that don't live in Denver, Colorado permanently, and so. But he came in that old regime of guys when I was still training guys that weren't living here full time, and so he's done a good job of navigating that. I mean, the stuff with Cub is Cub has shown throughout his entire career. He's got speed, he's got power. Obviously, his boxing's good. He's a black belt on the ground. He's a well-rounded mixed martial artist, and he's also a vet. So he's been in there. He's been hurt before and won fights, and he's lost some fights and learned from them. And so, he's a tough opponent. I feel like Jonathan did an exceptional job with his performance, and he looked amazing. But that's not to take anything away from Cub. He's still a great fighter. I told Cub in the cage after the fight, man, you're a savage, and he said to me, not tonight. And I said, that's not true. You're a savage every single day. And he kind of chuckled and he said, thanks, coach. Because I truly do mean that, because, he's one of those trailblazers in the sport that's been around for a long time. And he's also just help shape some of those divisions. I mean, at 45, he's beat some amazing guys, and so going into that, we respected what Cub has done. But one of the things that I said to Jonathan repeatedly is you have to be able to remove the face and name of who you're fighting, and you just have to go attack a body in front of you. And it can't be that it's Cub Swanson who did, and run down his resume. It can't do that, because what will happen is you'll potentially lose that fight before you ever get in there. And so, I've learned that through time as a coach and obviously as a fighter, that if you give them too much credit, too much respect, before you even walk up those stairs, you might lose that fight mentally. And so, Jonathan did an amazing job of that. And he said to me, Coach, continue to remind me about that. And I did. I mean, I did all the way up until we were standing next to him at the cage. And he did a great job of being able to just remove the face and name and go make a statement like he did. And, that was a big achievement for him and us as a team and me as a coach. And, the whole thing came together in an amazing way. So Cub has some great attributes. I mean, he's fast, he's long, got power. So we had to negate that. And one of the ways we negated that was with elbow attacks. Every time Cub crashed in with his handwork, tried to get it started, we attacked the elbows, which put him back into kicking range, which is one of Jonathan's best attributes. And Jonathan really embraced that and went out there and executed well. So, nothing but kudos to obviously Cub, but man, what an achievement for Jonathan.
Yeah, I was going to say, like you said about the forearms, that was clearly a game plan heading into the fight. Did you get a chance to watch the fight back yet?
I've watched the fight back, but I didn't get to watch the fight back with audio. But I did watch the fight right after the actual fight happened. We watched it quickly. And so, yes, I did, but I have not watched the fight back with audio. I'll do that this week. I just haven't watched it again like that.
Mm-hmm, yeah. I was going to say, watching it, when I was watching it live, I was thinking at the end of that first round, I mean, you guys had Cub really hurt. I mean, honestly, if that thing would have went back, that thing would have lasted a few more seconds, the fight might have been over. Were you frustrated at all during that point, before the finish in round 2, that it could have been finished in the first?
I wasn't frustrated with our performance or fighter. I was a little frustrated that, we got a guy like Cub on the ropes, and he's taking damage, and I think you could argue whether that fight should have been stopped. The thing is, it doesn't matter at this point at that point, because at that point you're like, all right, I yelled at her, but you should stop the fight, and whatever, he didn't, and so it's like, okay, fine. But the thing that wasn't shown when I rewatched the fight is they never went to the corner between rounds. And one of the things I told Jonathan that I felt was imperative is that you've got him hurt, which is the whole point of our game plan. And when you come back out, you can't come out so guns a-blazing that you gas out, because he's a vet. And if he withstands that, he's learned how to win from those type of situations. So we got to just come out and do the same thing we just did and run him into some of our traps that we ran him into, and stick with the plan. Don't come out so guns a-blazing that you gas out, but don't then not put the foot on the gas. So there's a fine, like razor thin line of how to approach that, and Jonathan did a perfect job of that. And he was able to utilize his kicks high in that first round, which started to open up the legs. And then, he continued to attack the legs and just threw Cub off of his momentum or getting any of his swag that he has shown he can really execute well with in the past. And so, no, it wasn't. You can't be frustrated at that point. You just got to go straight into, okay, how are we gonna finish this? We got another round, and then between Jonathan and I, we have to have good communication and understanding, and we did. And I was proud of him when he went back in there and continued to just stay poised and find a way to finish.
Yeah, and obviously going next to the next round, you guys had him hurt in the beginning, but then midway through the fight, he kicks him in the legs. I'm just curious to know, was like leg kicks a part of the game plan? Within the camp, like did you guys expect maybe that would take like a as big of a toll as it did?
Well, for sure. I mean, Cub is a dynamic mover. So one of the ways to stop a dynamic mover is to attack their foundation. And his foundation is his legs, and one of his best attributes are his in and out style. And so, in order to have an in and out style like that, you need your legs to be fresh and ready for three rounds in that fight. And so, yeah, 100%. An arsenal of leg attacks was part of the plan. But you can't only go to that. We needed to kick mid and high too. We need to kick the body and to the head as well, so that we could come back and set traps other places. And Jonathan's elbow work changed the Cubs' whole game, because after the fight, you could see all the knots on Cub's head from those times that Jonathan was able to hit him with elbows. And you kind of have to watch the fight closely to see all the elbow attacks that landed, including some of them on the ground. And so, those added up, and then the misdirection of the kicks added up. And like I said, it was kind of cool the way the fight went and finished, because Jonathan absolutely followed the game plan, which is huge, but he also trusted his instinct, which is really big. He listened really well. He usually does anyway, but he listened really good on Saturday night. And it was kind of like playing a video game with him. And he was like, when they got in the clinch and he hit him with the knee, the one that first hurt him in the first round, I'm screaming at him to knee, and he did it right on command. And so whether he was just instinctively doing that or he heard me and then did it, doesn't matter. The point is we were both on the same page. And when you're like that, when you get in a fight like that, when you're both just firing on all cylinders and you're connected like that, it's really hard to beat a young man like Jonathan.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, the performance really spoke for itself. Everything you're saying, it really lined up to the performance. I was gonna say, were you guys at all disappointed that you guys didn't get that highlight reel knockout necessarily? It was the leg kick, and a lot of people are saying it was a surgery leg. Do you feel like maybe you'd rather have that knockout and that definitive answer than people kind of online saying, oh, it was because it was a surgery leg and it wouldn't have been stopped?
I don't give a shit about what people say online, to be honest with you. Those people saying that online have never taken any type of kick, whether it's low or high. And so I could give two shits what people say online. What I know is that anytime you go in there and you find a way to finish somebody at any level, it's a big deal, but especially at the UFC level, and especially someone of Cubs caliber, to find a way to do it. Doesn't matter how it happens. It's just, that's a magical thing when it comes together. And so people being trivial about this and that and how it happened or not, those people need to go get on the mat and get kicked in the leg a time or two and see what that feels like, to then figure that out. I asked Cub after the fight, I said, hey man, I hope you're not hurt bad, like a surgery type thing. He said, I don't think it is. It's just, those leg kicks took a toll, and I couldn't stand on anymore. So I hope for Cub's sake that it's not a bad injury. I hope it was just, a tallied up injury of hard kicks. I mean, at the end of the day, man, whether you get knocked out by getting hit in the head or you get finished because you can't walk anymore, the point is to go inflict your game plan and damage, and however the fight finishes, it finishes. So no, I don't. I think it's absurd and ridiculous that people would even bring that up, because that just shows the inexperience of those people and what the hell they're talking about.
Yeah, I agree with you there because this is nowhere even comparable to like a Chris Weidman situation or a Conor McGregor situation where they break the leg first round or in the first few seconds of the fight. This is obviously Jonathan was dominating the whole fight, so I agree with you there. It was a little bit ridiculous. I also wanted to say,
But
you touched on this earlier before, but I gotta say I do agree with you. It's just super annoying how the UFC they don't show the corner cams. I think they should do that a lot more, but with advertisements, this and that, So I think that's a really good point you brought up there, with the
yeah,
corner cams.
I think for the fan experience, it's not because I'm saying anything in there. I think it's a behind the scenes thing that is worth seeing that the other corner doesn't know is being
Mm-hmm.
said, and then can they go out and execute it? It just kind of it leads to the suspense of the next round, and so yeah, I mean I get it. The UFC has bills to pay, and so that's why they cut the commercial. It's just it's about making money and paying the bills. So I get it, but from a fan experience,
Mm-hmm.
even when I watch the fights at home, I'm bitching about, man, I want to hear what's going on in that corner. I want to see technically and tactically what's going on and what the fighter's demeanor is, and what are the coaches calm, or are they kind of pissed and freaking out, or who knows, and so that stuff's always fun to see. And so yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it'll change because
Yeah, definitely not.
you know as well as I do, it's about it's a business. So
Yeah.
but one of the things you said is sometimes in fights like you had mentioned with Weidman and Connor, you got to remember the whole job to going into a fight is inflict enough damage to stop your opponent. Now, if you break their leg, whether the fans like that or not, and it stopped early or it was gruesome or whatever's going on, the whole point was to go inflict damage. So if that thing happened in 10 seconds or the fifth round, it doesn't matter. They're inflicting damage, and that's how they're finding finishes. If it's a leg break or an arm break or a nose break or an orbital break or whatever goes on in there, that's the whole point. So to put more emphasis on a head kick knockout versus breaking your shin, I think is absurd and ridiculous. And it again goes back to the lack of knowledge that people have. Can you imagine? I would way rather get kicked in my head and knocked out than snap my shin bone. So to inflict that kind of damage is some serious stuff. And so those finishes, I think, are just as good, if not better, than a knockout finish to the head.
Yeah, of course. I gotta agree with you there. This is it's a fight at the end of the day. Whoever you get the job done, you get the job done. I just saw some people talking about it online, and I didn't watch it live, so I really didn't know. And then I watched it after when I got home, and I watched the full card, and I was like, no, like he's definitely dominating. I just didn't know if you guys would have rather that. But anyway, but your other fighter was supposed to fight Brandon Royval. He was originally supposed to fight Askarov. You guys find out Friday morning, I would assume, maybe earlier. You can tell me, but that he's not going to make weight. Brandon said that he declined a catch weight. So how did you guys find out that Askarov wasn't actually going to make the weight and make the fight?
Well, early on Friday morning, the UFC called Brandon's management, Jason House, and said, "Hey, Askarov's struggling bad with his weight cut, and so bad that the doctor's saying he has to stop cutting weight and got to go to the hospital." And so when I had that conversation with Jason in the morning, I said, "Okay, well," before I knew that he had to go to the hospital, I said, "Then let's do a catch weight because we're ready for this fight, and we've spent a lot of time and just energy and money getting to this point. So what about a catch weight?" And then Jason had said to me, "That's not an option because the doctor's saying he's got to go to the hospital. That's how bad his weight cut is right now." So that's how we found out. It's super disappointing. It's
Yeah, I mean,
Brandon was really frustrated. I mean, and rightly so, because what their first job is to go make weight, and then second is obviously to go and put on a performance and find a way to win. But that first job is to make weight, and a lot of times, sometimes things happen, whatever. But it doesn't matter. It's just very frustrating. One of the more frustrating things about that whole thing is not only did he miss weight, but the UFC then offered both us and Askarov and his camp the opportunity to rebook the fight November 5th, and they declined it. And so it's like, man, wow, how is it even fair or possible that when you miss weight, you dictated now that the fight's not happening, you missed it so bad, and you've messed up your cut so bad that you got to go to the hospital, and then in addition, you're going to say no to another opportunity for whatever your reasons are. It doesn't matter, but you know and again, the UFC can't make anybody do anything. I guess at the end of the day, but it's like that stuff is frustrating given the fact that we were ready and prepared to go dominate last Saturday night against Askarov, and then given the circumstances, it's shitty, but it's also like, okay, fine. Give us a date. When are we going to go do this? November 5th isn't ideal for anybody. We were supposed to fight last Saturday, so we got to make adjustments and figure stuff out too. But for him to say no, and then now we're just sitting in idle right now, going, okay, what do we do now? Is a frustrating, definitely frustrating seat to be sitting in.
Yeah, especially, I mean, a lot of people said that that fight should have been the main event with Askarov, and
that's a fact.
It seems like that fight's not happening anymore, but it seems like that Brandon called out Alexandre Pantoja for January, I'd assume in Brazil. What do you think about that matchup and that call out?
I mean, I love it. I just, it's the likelihood of that happening is slim to none, probably. I mean, why would Pantoja say yes to doing that when he's sitting in the driver's seat to go and fight the winner of this title fight happening in January? So I think Pantoja, I don't know this for a fact, but I think Pantoja is the backup for that fight in case someone were to get hurt.
Yeah, no.
So why would he accept that? That's a super risky fight for Pantoja. And, to take a risky fight at that point when you're next in line, I mean, I pray that were to happen because I love that. But the likelihood of that happening, I think, is slim. I don't blame Brandon for saying that because rightly so. He's the only guy really above him. And so, I mean, essentially, Brandon beat Askarov twice. He beat him on the scale because he couldn't make weight. And then we got offered November 5th. We said yes instantly. He said no. So, I mean, we beat him twice on Saturday.
Yeah. Do you guys have any idea why he said no, or is it just, I don't know if the UFC told you for this reason, or,
No, we don't. I don't know the exact reason. I just know that it's not happening. So,
yeah, I mean,
we'll just chalk it up as 2-0 for Brandon over the weekend.
Yeah, it's a shame. Hopefully he gets his ranking, obviously very disappointing for everybody. But I want to thank you for coming on, congratulations to you and Jonathan, everybody, for the performance. Hopefully Brandon gets that fight against Alexandre, and so he could be in line for a title shot potentially with that win.
Yeah, I mean, if it doesn't happen then, it's going to happen sometime next year. I mean, just, Brandon definitely going to be fighting for a title soon. And when it happens, I don't know, but I know it will. And he's that talented, and he's worked really hard to get to this point. So, we're gonna keep doing our thing, and at some point next year, I believe you'll be watching us fight for a title.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would bet a lot of money that within the year, Brandon's going to fight for the title, or at least be in a number one contenders fight. I mean, his next fight's most likely if either a number one contenders fight or maybe even a title fight, depending on Pantoja and everything. But yeah, like I said, do you watch MMA? Like, do you watch UFC on the weekends when your guys aren't fighting, or you just?
Oh yeah. No, I watch everything fighting, boxing, UFC, PFL. I mean, I'm a student and continue to just watch the sport grow and evolve, and I watch fighting every day, every weekend.
Yeah, the reason I asked that is I was going to ask, what are your thoughts, Islam or Charles, for this weekend before you go?
It's a good question.
It's too close.
I mean, it's a good fight. That's a good fight. I think Oliveira has been through the ringer in the sense of his competition, and he's proven that in the recent past he's been able to navigate through all that. He's grown so much. I mean, I remember being on a card with him when he made his debut, and to watch where he has started to where he is now is amazing transformation, and kudos to him. And he didn't get there, by the way, with all just flying colors. I mean, he took some lumps getting there, and so I think one of the things that lends in Oliveira's favor is that competition he's faced and the time he's spent there lends in his favor. Islam is going to have to go into the hornet's nest, which is one of Oliveira's major strengths, which is on the ground. And Oliveira has shown that off his back, which I'm assuming Islam's going to want to put him off his back, he's nasty. And so he's going to have to go in the hornet's nest to win that fight. I think Oliveira has really shored up a lot of his striking, and on the feet he can be real dangerous. Now, and he lets that complement everything else, and so that's a huge growth piece for him. And Islam has done some amazing stuff. I mean, he's run through some good opponents too. He's gone and imposed his will on the ground. He hasn't faced anyone of Oliveira's caliber on the ground yet, and so it's a very interesting matchup. It's a good job by the UFC making that fight. It's definitely, I think it lends toward Oliveira winning it. I wouldn't be shocked though if Islam were to pull it out, and I'm assuming they've done a lot of game planning for the ground, especially with an opponent like Oliveira, who's very good everywhere on the ground. And so, I think Oliveira is better on the feet. And so I think the things that weigh heavily here are what happens on the ground. And so, can he negate Oliveira's attack? Can Oliveira utilize his attack to create space and get up, or finishes? That's the real question. I guess on Saturday we're going to see.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Marc, for coming on. I won't take up any more of your time. Thank you for giving lengthy answers and really answering the question with thought. Good luck on the future, and good luck on getting that Pantoja fight.
You're welcome, man. I appreciate you having me on, and look forward to coming back on in the future. Have a great one. Keep killing it, man.
Yeah, have a great night, man.